Good morning, boys and girls. Happy Monday and happy week about learning about Maine, the beautiful state that we live in. I have a wonderful story this morning. It was my children's favorite book about Maine and the ocean, and I'm going to share it with you today. It is called Titus Tidewater, and as you can see by the picture on the cover, it is a story about a lobster, and it is written and illustrated by Susie Verrier. And she is a woman who wrote and illustrated the story. And I love this cover, this title page on the inside. I want you to be able to see the whole thing of the rocks and the water and the waves. And it looks so much like our coast here in Maine. So Titus Tidewater. There's a rocky beach there and some lobster boats. Here we go. Dandelions dotted the hillsides, and freshly painted fishing boats filled the harbors. Beneath the bright blue sea, Titus Tidewater settled into his summer cave. You see, these are lobster buoys that the lobstermen catch the lobsters in. Titus Tidewater was a handsome lobster. He was wearing his colorful summer shell. His antennae were long and his claws were large and sharp and strong. Titus Tidewater was glad to have the deep, dark waters to leave the deep, dark waters where he spent his winters. Summers would be exciting on the shoreline. There were scuba divers to hide from, boats to watch, and dangerous lobster traps to avoid. Lobsters want to avoid those. Sunlight danced on the ocean floor, and Titus Tidewater poked his head out of the cave. What a perfect day for an adventure, he thought as he left the cave. His summer shell was still too soft to protect him, but it was just too beautiful to stay inside. Titus Tidewater twined among the seaweed and rocks. He swam backward as all lobsters do. Did you know that? They swim backwards. But was very careful not to bump into sharp rocks or large fish. Titus Tidewater nestled into a safe spot away from the strong waves. He watched contently as waves exploded into froth and foam against the coastline. And I know you've seen that at the beach, all the white foam on the waves. And here he is, way down here. Uh-oh. Returning home, Titus picked his way around the lobster traps. Suddenly, he spied a very pretty little lobster caught in a trap. Hello, I'm Titus Tidewater, he announced gallantly, flipping his antenna. My name is Daphne. Please help me get out of this trap. You can see her claw here in her antenna. Titus tried, but could not untangle Daphne's claws. There is nothing I can do, he apologized. Oh no, Daphne cried. Oh, please don't cry, begged Titus. I'll see what I can do from inside. And if you know anything about lobster traps, once they go inside, they cannot get out. But as he worked his way to try to free Daphne's claws, his own became more and more tangled up in the ropes. The trap lurched. Quickly, it rose to the surface and then out of the ocean. Water gushed out through the slats. This is the end, Titus wailed. With a heavy thud, the trap landed in a fishing boat. A lobsterman unlatched the trap and grabbed Daphne. Ooh, you're too small, he complained. Splash! Daphne landed back in the sea. He pulled Titus from the trap and put him in a basket. Soon there were lobsters on top of Titus. The weight was crushing his soft shell. So when lobstermen catch a lobster, they have to be a certain size. They can't be too small. If they're too small, the lobstermen throw them back into the water so they can keep growing. See what happens to Titus. "Where am I?" Titus groaned. "In a lobster pot," grumbled a lobster nearby. "My claws hurt," cried Titus. He looked down and there were pegs in his claws, and you can see them right here. He looked up and saw faces looking into the tank. And lobstermen, when they catch a lobster, lobster's claws are very sharp, very strong. So they put a peg into the side of their claws so they can't open them. Without warning, a net swooped down, lifted Titus out of the water, and dropped him on a hard metal scale. "2 pounds," said a man beside the scale. "We'll buy him," a boy and girl squealed. They they poured a pile of pennies, nickels, and dimes onto the counter. Turn the page here. There we go. The children carried Titus into a dusty street, over a picket fence, and through the alley to a beach. Beyond, Titus saw the ocean. Oh, he was homesick and he was so afraid. I wonder what the boy and girl are going to do with him. "Puddle will be a nice home for him," said the girl. "Let's find him some company." The children filled Titus's pool with crabs, snails, starfish, and seaweed. Soon the children got tired of their pets and they went home. The water grew warm and murky in the afternoon sun. So they were trying to keep him safe in the water and gave him some friends. Titus watched the sun go down over the ocean and the sky darken. Tears welled in his eyes as the moon rose and he thought of the ocean floor bathed in moonlight. And look, when the tide goes out, they're all left up on the rocks. "A full moon, then this'll be a very high tide," Titus said. He felt the water getting colder and deeper. Soon the puddle was back full and part of another puddle, and then another still bigger puddle. At last, Titus was able to swim toward the ocean. Titus swam quickly, letting his instinct guide him. He was trying to find his way home. So when the tide came in, it filled the puddles back up again, and he was able to escape. As the first rays of sun lighted the depths, Titus reached his home. He pulled the seaweed away from the door. Titus was horrified. "Who's in my cave?" he yelled. "Titus, it's me, Daphne. I've been waiting for you." Oh, the little lobster that he tried to save. Daphne tended Titus's bruises and made him a soft seaweed bed. After a big breakfast of mussels, Titus fell asleep. So happy to be home again. Titus soon recovered from his adventure, and his shell grew harder and stronger. Together, he and Daphne explored the shoreline. Think you're happy? I do. Titus Tidewater was a very happy lobster. Even his winters weren't sad anymore. He had Daphne with him, and they spent many seasons together beneath the sea along the Maine coast. The end. We have many, many lobsters along the Maine coast that live just like Titus and Daphne. It's very hard to stay away from those lobster traps. Have a happy day, my friends. Bye.